Hi, I'm Tim McGrew. I'm professor of philosophy and chairman of the Department of Philosophy at Western Michigan University. So I am a real professor. What I'm not, but I'm going to pretend to be for the next 90 seconds or so, is an atheist. So what you're about to see is what students would see if they wandered into a professor's office at a secular university. I realize that maybe you've grown up with the Bible. You read it and you believe what you're told. You think these are true stories about Jesus. But what you need to understand is, once we begin studying these things, they just don't look like reliable accounts of what's happened in the real world. Let me give you some examples. Mark chapter 5. You remember the story of Jesus casting all the demons out of a demoniac and they enter into a herd of swine and they run downhill? Well, where does Mark 5 tell you that took place? It's at Gerasa. Guess what? We know where Gerasa is. It's 37 miles away from the Sea of Galilee. Do you really think that the swine ran 37 miles in order to drop exhausted into the Sea of Galilee? It doesn't add up. Mark doesn't understand the geography of Palestine. He probably didn't even live there. That's just one example. We could also go to Mark 7:31, where he says that Jesus left Tyre to go to the Decapolis through Sidon. That's like leaving Kalamazoo to go to South Bend through Grand Rapids. He's going north to go south. Mark doesn't understand the geography of the coastline of Palestine. Mark gets the location of the Jordan River and Judea wrong in Mark chapter 10. In Mark chapter 11, he gets wrong the order in which you would encounter Bethany and Bethphage as you're coming into Jerusalem. Mark just doesn't understand these things. He's not familiar with these things, and we know that he's wrong about these things. Or take Jewish customs. Mark 10 verse 12, Jesus is teaching, says Mark, about divorce and says that if a woman divorces her husband and marries someone else, she commits adultery. But this isn't even possible under Jewish law. A woman can't divorce her husband. This isn't something Jesus actually taught. This is something that somebody else has brought in. A story they told about Jesus, maybe a relevant and helpful story, but not something that really happened. I've been picking on the Gospel of Mark, but we can do the same thing with the other Gospels. Luke chapter 2 opens with a census that is supposed to have happened when Quirinius was governor of Syria. But it's also supposed to have happened when Herod the Great is alive, and that's impossible. It was a decade after the death of Herod the Great that Quirinius ran a census. So Luke is just wrong chronologically, and that's not his only mistake. If you go to Luke chapter 3, it opens up telling us that John the Baptist came when Lysanias was governor of Abilene. But Lysanias had been dead for 60 years by the time John the Baptist came on the scene. Luke isn't familiar with his chronology. He's making things up. He's doing the best he can. But this isn't really an account of what happened in the real world. Or take Matthew. In the Gospel of Matthew, you read about the slaughter of the innocents, all these children who are killed in Bethlehem. Guess what? We have Jewish historians like Josephus writing about what's happening in Galilee. He never mentions this event. It didn't happen. It's just something that Matthew put in there as an excuse for getting Jesus to Bethlehem, because the Old Testament says that's where the Messiah was supposed to be born. That was a lot of objections, wasn't it? And maybe you're sitting there thinking, some of those sounded pretty convincing. Actually, there are excellent answers to all of these objections, and there's a mountain of evidence that your atheist professor will never tell you about and maybe doesn't even know about. My wife Lydia and I are very excited to give you some of those tools to equip you better at the Grow Conference on October 27th and 28th. Hope to see you there.